Anybody who tells you that non-citizens aren't voting in Kansas, they're just lying to your face. Because the truth is, we don't know if non-citizens are voting in Kansas, because we don't really have any good mechanisms for scrubbing, for preventing them from registering in the first place, or scrubbing the voter rolls once they register to get the non-citizens off. There are really no statutory mechanisms for doing that. If you saw during the election cycle, there was a big fight over Virginia. The Virginia governor was going to remove 6,000 non-citizens from the voter rolls, and the Democrats were screaming bloody murder because that's their base, and so they didn't want him removed. Well, he was able to do that because there's a statute that says Virginia governor, whether you're Glenn Youngkin or whoever else, Democrat or Republican, you will talk to the DMV, get their collected citizenship data, because when you go get a real ID, you have to prove, who you are with a birth certificate and all that, and you have to, if you're not a citizen, you bring in your resident alien stuff so that you can prove that you're here legally, and he has to do that. That's in statute. That's in Virginia statute that he has to do that. Well, we don't have anything like that in Kansas. And so, to me, that's an easy fix, right? The DMV has already collected the data, and right now, informally, after several years of work, Secretary of State Scott Schwab has gotten them to share that data with the department, the Secretary of State's office. But it's just a handshake. There's nothing that says that the next director of the Department of Motor Vehicles comes in isn't going to say, no, we're not doing that. And then they can't do it anymore and they have to start all over. So we're going to put that in statute, that they have to do that checking. And there's some other kind of data sources that also collect citizenship data that I want us to use to scrub our voter rolls. There's this database called the SAVE database, which when you go to get food stamps, TANF, which is welfare, several other kind of benefits, government benefits, they collect your citizenship data. So they know if you're a citizen or not. Let's have the Secretary of State check that database against our voter rolls and find people who are not citizens on our voter rolls and take them off. Another one is like your credit information. And this one's a little more controversial. I'm going to have a hearing on it. We'll see where people are on it and see if we want to do it. But your credit rating, with Equifax and TransUnion and all these different credit rating agencies, they know if you're a citizen or not. And anybody can pay to subscribe to look at that data. So an idea, and again, I'm not 100% on this one. I want to have a hearing on it and see if there's any second and third order consequences that I'm not thinking of. But an idea that's bubbling up is, let's just pay to have access to one of those databases. We can do like a bidding process and get the cheapest one, and then let's compare it to our voter rolls and see if we've got non-citizens on our voter rolls. Now, we tried to do something like this on the front end several years ago when Attorney General Kobach was our Secretary of State. He tried to do a citizenship verification up front, and it got struck down in court because there's a National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, which supersedes state law, which says these are the things that you're allowed to ask for when you're doing the federal form. And they said basically, Kansas, you can't add to that. But Arizona made the same requirements for the state form. And anybody who fills out the state form, they can add that requirement. So there may be some ways on the front end to do it. They're probably going to require a little more work than we've got time for in this very limited session. We may work on it next year. But for now, we're looking at on the back end, after people are registered, let's scrub the voter rolls and find any non-citizens and remove them. Because right now we don't know. We do not know if non-citizens are voting or not because we're not really looking. You have to have some due process, right? If somebody is removed from the voter rolls, because they weren't a citizen when they got their driver's license, they have to have a mechanism where they can come in and say, look, I've become a naturalized citizen, and then they can, get back onto the voter roll. We have to have that, and we have to have a good stretch of time, and I'm committed to making sure all that's in the law. I mean, my wife is a naturalized American citizen. I don't want American citizens to be disenfranchised, and so we have to have a mechanism for people to appeal if they're taken off and get back on if they're actually a citizen now. But I think this is something we need to do.